Last week we discussed basically how do you define God? Because if God is our object of knowledge of worship, you need to know what God looks like, or what are the characteristics. Or so there are 2 points that were made. We will just summarize it very in simple way. One is that any object that you want to see, it has to be defined. Otherwise, how would you know what to look for? And then what is the benefit of it? Why? What is the purpose? So the definition according to Vedanta, and is in Taittiriya Upanishad, takes this topic in a very broad term and defines God as the Satyam Jnanam Anantam. That is the definition of God according to Vedanta. And we talked about it, but we will just go to Satya means anything that exists. So God has to exist. If it doesn't exist, then you're not. What are we talking about? And everything. And then second is Jnanam, because human beings are reflection of the same consciousness. We have the conscious, so God has to be conscious too, because we are descendant of God, same power. So we have to have the same features. And Anantam is the one which, because God cannot be finite. If God is finite, then he's just like any of us. So that is a definition, but there's a lot of different, bigger definitions of this, and we will discuss that probably at some other point. But our today's point is only briefly discuss. We will talk about the creation, which is associated with the God, and how can we learn of God in meditation. So we will learn today with a special technique of how to meditate. If you have never done before, you will have a different experience today of how to go inside, deeper inside, have some kind of a feeling of the consciousness that we are looking for. So first of all, since the God is the creator, we have to know how the creation came about. So in the beginning, of course, there was nothing there except the consciousness or God, whatever you want to call. And then the first thing that emanated from that consciousness, or Brahm, or or God, or whatever, was the ether, or Akash. In Hindi, say Akash, and in English they say ether. Akash is also translated as sky. That is the first element of the creation that came out of him. Just like a spider web comes out of the spider. So that thing became the starting point of the creation. And that came along with the time, Kal. So as soon as that everything is space and time, in this material world, everything is controlled by the space and time. Nothing goes beyond this one. So the time came from the starting point. So this is creation, and now that ether has the quality of sound. Without ether, you can't hear sound, and that's what the science says. So ether is the sound, and sound is the one. If you look at the beauty, is this one. The Brahm is that Om is a sound, and is a symbolic of embodiment of God. And if you look at the Bible says in the beginning there was a word. The word was with God, and the word was God. So they had the perception of the sound as it's symbolic of God. That is Bible. We are not talking about Hinduism. Vedanta says the same thing. The Om came out from the is a symbolic of God. So in deep meditation, when you go there, you will have the humming in a sound. It will come in your meditation, and And if you have a deep meditation today, we will experiment this today for you all. Then you will have the feeling that what is the Om sound, real Om sounds like. We are trying to reproduce the sound in our, trying to create that vibrations in our head to sort of a copy or emulate that sound that we have been, that is eternal, and that they call it ajab. Jap is the chanting, and that chanting is going on, from eternity, and that sound you would hear in deep meditation. Is so fine that unless the whole thing is very quiet, you will not hear that. And that's why in the beginning, a lot of teachers or guru, they when they give you this mantra, Om or Om Shivaya, Om, or different mantras can be used just to focus the mind. They recommend, if you have a smaller home, go into a closet, close closets, shut the door, sit inside, complete darkness, and no noise from the road or anywhere, and close your eyes, and then you will be able to hear, if you can focus your mind. So it has to be pin drop silence in your head, not only just a physical noise, but your head noise, because there's a dialogue going on between left side of the brain to the right side of the brain, and one is talking of the good feeling, and the other talking of worldly things, and the dialogue goes on. So that has to stop. So you can imagine today we will experiment that in a very brief manner. How would you feel when you go in that deep meditation? So Akash and ether are the starting point, and that the creation started from there. So sound is very, very important. Without sound, you can imagine the word. Imagine if the sound wasn't there, you can't speak, no expression. How would you communicate with people? So sound is so important that in this material world, nothing can be done. We can't talk to anybody. You can imagine the fate of the universe. Will it exist or not without a sound? So sound has a fundamental of the creation. So that's the way. Now, once the sound became stable, I mean the akash or ether, then when it became little more gross, then air came in, and with the added quality of touch and prana. Air has two properties. One is the touch, another one is the prana. Prana, which is running in your body. Imagine your body has no prana. You're not able to breathe. What will be the state of the body? Is dead body. So prana is very important, and prana is a little grossification of the ether. Now we are talking very subtle. Now, when you talk of the Mahabhut, Panch Tattva we are talking about, they are not this Akash. These are subtle, they are called subtle elements. Or in Hindi, I think Tanmatra, they use the word. So these are Suksham, very subtle. So air came with the added quality of prana and touch. And when that became little more gross, then came the fire. And fire is a symbolic of vision, light, and fire. So these are the three qualities. So without eyes, you can't see anything. So the next creation brought the quality of being able to see, vision. And so you can see step by step evolution. And then came the out of the fire came the water. Water is I still we are talking about subtle. We will go into grossification later. And the water has a quality of taste. So taste is the one, and water is also required for the food digestion. Without water, you can't digest the food, solid food. So water is required there, and then from the water came the earth, which is Prithvi, and so Prithvi is the Prithvi is the grossest form of the five subtle elements. Now, these five elements, they interacted. So if you want to see the real form, which we are able to see through our eyes, you have to take each subtle element, 50% of that, and 12.5% of the other four. You combine them, then that becomes the ether. So 50% ether, 12.5% of the air, 12.5% of fire, 12.5% of water, and 12.5% of earth. If you combine them, that would become the gross ether that you can see sky. Same thing, water. Water 50% and 12.5% of other four. They intermingle. This is a panchikaran. They call panchikaran. They become gross, and then we are able to feel them. And so body is consist of the five elements. Now we will go back. Now you can imagine we started from the very subtle, ether came from God, and then we came into the gross form of the body. And the body consists of five elements, and this is what is called gross body. Now, since we all descendant, just like they said, we are descendant of the monkeys. I mean, that is a science says. I mean, Vedanta doesn't say that we came from monkeys. Monkeys are a separate species. But even if you take science, if you take the source, then if you are looking at the later product, if you want to trace back the origin, you have to go back. So if we are coming from the consciousness of God, we can trace it back through us. So we have to keep going inside in back. So now here I would like to compare the science and the Vedanta. Vedanta also believes that gross matter makes the whole entire creation, and Vedanta says the same thing. Gross matter makes the creation, which you are able to see. Now, science says anything that I can measure or be able to perceive, that is the thing I'm going to. So they are talking of the senses. They can touch, feel, see, and hear. All the senses they can use to understand the product, the nature, and they are trying to experiment, to learn the universe or human body, anything they can put their hands on, and then they can use instruments to test the different subtle things, like waves, for example. But Vedanta says that you can deal with the senses, but if you want to know the true who you are, you've got to go inside, and then you will find a solution to your problems. Science is looking for understand the physical aspect of it, and Vedanta is talking of the spiritual aspect, which you have to go inside. And that's what we are trying to do in Vedanta, to go inside, to look for the source of our existence. So now if you want to go back, so the gross body is here. Now gross body is a product of earth, which is solid matter, because from the earth came the food. From the food came the human body. So all the trees and human body, they came from the food that came from earth element. And so this gross body has a food and water and fire, because without fire you can't. So if you have a digestive fire, this is Hindi, they call it Jatragni. So Jatragni is sitting in Manipur chakra. Water is sitting in Swadhisthana, and Mooladhara is the earth. So I will try to give you the bigger picture. There are 7 chakras. The bottommost is the starting point is the Mooladhara, which is deal with the earth, and which is sitting at the tail of our spinal cord. And 2 inches above is the Swadhisthana, and Swadhisthana is the water, and Manipur is at the navel, which is the fire. So all these 3 combined together makes the food. So when you eat the food, it goes through the mouth, goes in the stomach, and it gets processed with the heat of the Jatragni in the stomach, Manipur chakra, which is fire, and water is coming from bottom. All these combined together makes process the food and is consumed by the body. So you can imagine the physical aspect of the body is that you're eating the food. There's nothing in upper part is not affected at all. They get the benefit of it, but the entire process, physical process, is going on in this body. And you eat the food, and just like a factory, the whole thing comes together in the stomach, and you digest the food. It goes through the intestines. It gets all these minerals and everything is absorbed by the intestines and circulated to the entire body to keep the body alive. So your body is a physical, is just like an outer layer of the build of the house, for example, is a structure. And then now, if you go a little more subtle, is the prana. And prana, as I said, is air, which is anad. Anad is a air. And so you're getting at the heart level, you're the which is anad, and anad is also has a sound, which is leading to your next is Vishuddh. So Vishuddh is the sitting here is the sound. So you are seeing the air is here, and now here is a sound means the sky or ether. So all the chakras involved. So now the next one is prana, and prana is the one which is making the body living, animate. Without prana, body nothing will work. So you need prana. So you are now prana is coming at the another chakra, and it also has a sound which is connected to the here. So these two chakras are causing the prana to function, and prana has 5 different functions: breathing, digesting the food, blood circulation, ejection of the waste product from the body, and the vocal cords. This upper part of the area where we breathe. So the prana is when you breathe in, you're basically end up putting in the energy from the atmosphere, which is a part of the universe, and we are taking without realizing that we are connected to the universe through our prana. And this is what we would use in meditation, that your entire thing is connected to the universe. And this is complete Brahman, they say in Hindi, Brahman, of which is a manifestation of the small universe. We are all entire universe with this one. And we are linked to the bigger universe outside. Without knowing, we breathe without realizing that we are connected to the outside world through the breathing. So that is the next one. And then you go further in, then called the Manomay Kosh, which is the intelligence, which is consciousness. The reflection of the consciousness is a mind. Now, without the mind, your senses will not work. Even though life is there, because of the prana, your all the organs are working, but there's no one to connect to them. So the Gyanmay Kosh, that Gyanmay Kosh is the intelligence. And once the mind comes in picture, then it started linking. All the organs are connected to the mind, and then you're able to perceive through the eyes, through the ear, through the touch, taste. Then you are able to see the entire world. So you can imagine the entire creation was created. There has to be some observer. Nothing is created for nothing. You make a house to live. You make a picture, somebody to see that. You don't make a chair for just to look at it. Somebody has to use it. Or you make a picture. Picture for whom? Somebody has to look at it. So the entire creation is there, somebody to look at it. And we are the one who are looking at it. And who are we? This is what the question we are talking about. So now the mind has come in picture and trying to link all the 5 senses that were created out of that gross matter. And then now we are getting a little finer. So now my mind is gathering from the senses, and when we sleep, the mind brings the stuff from the memory and keeps you in dreams, gives you all the enjoyment that you want trying. And then you suffer. Without the mind, you won't suffer. When you go in deep sleep, there's no suffering. So with the mind, you suffer, or you enjoy both. So these are the mind. Now you go mind, you go further, more subtle than Vigyan mein Kosh, which is the intellect. Now intellect is the one which is decision making, and and with the intellect comes the ego. So as soon as the intellect comes, the feeling of, until mind was there, you were getting the information, but there was no sense of first-hand realization, first-hand experience of the observation. There's no one to watching. Mind is just collecting the information. As soon as the intellect comes and the ego comes, ahankar, then you feel I'm the one watching it. Then you feel I'm the one watching, and so that is that Vigyan Kosh. And Vigyan Kosh is the one where you have the ego and the recognition and decision making. So now you can see and now you're getting closer to the source from where everything came. So now the Vigyan Kosh, if you go beyond Vigyan Kosh, is the called Anand Kosh, which is the bliss. And all the miseries are with the physical body, physical world. Everything is physical or mental. As soon as you go, so when you go intellect to Anand Kosh, the last layer of the around the consciousness, then you are in the bliss, and bliss is the quality of the consciousness. So you're getting a little feeling of the consciousness, but that consciousness, that bliss, when you see meditation, for example, when you will feel, that is subject to the mind being quiet. If the mind is not quiet, you won't hear, you won't feel that. So it is subject to the condition of the external world. So that's why even the Anandmay Kosh is not true you, because you still have the limitation imposed by the lower mind. When you know that you come down, and then your happiness is gone, you're in the misery again. So you have to go beyond this. So the deeper meditation, you will be at the junction of the Anandmay Kosh and the consciousness. So basically, your intellect, ego, and consciousness, they will be the only thing at the very end of your meditation, when you get deep in meditation. And that is time you will have a feeling that consciousness is one, and ego is saying that I'm here, but you will not be able to express it. And then some point in time in deep meditation, you have to go beyond ego. Then you will feel that this is me, and that's what you are. And then you are the one who started the whole thing, and you are the one who is observing everything. So entire world is your observation. The consciousness, the God is watching the entire his own creation, and through this thing. And now there are different interpretation. Question comes: why did God created all this thing? What was the idea? A lot of people question that. I mean, there are a lot of ways you can explain that, but one expression is this. I mean, it's a little humorous that God was sitting alone. He got bored. So he created another image of himself. And if once he made an image of himself, like human beings, then he forgot that he is God. So now he's looking for his identity. So that's some way you can relate to this thing. But I think this is a very subtle topic, and this you will only have to realize when you go in deep meditation and you begin to feel that I am the one which is the source of everything. And only then you will. So it has to be your own realization, and then you will have and that time you will not be talking, because the question is what we are here. We are looking at this body as me, and we are trying to bring the consciousness as an object. You can't you can't change the subject to object. You can go back and try to be there, to be at the conscious level and see I am the one, but you can't bring yourself in front of yourself to see who am I. So that's where the dilemma is, and that's why people. So you can have a concept of the God, but you will feel only in deep meditation when you go down, and it will happen when you get to the point when you can't wait when your anxiety or curiosity becomes so powerful, so dominating, that you can't sleep, you can't eat, when you become so desperate to know your reality, then you will have the urge to go inside and realize who you are. So, and that's what they say, when the time comes when you become so curious to know who the reality, then the guru walks in your life, and guru is your intellect. The guru will meet you, give you the direction how to go there, or anyone who is giving you directions can be your guru. So this is, but it's your own realization. No one is going to teach you how to find God. You are going to find your own God within you. So this is, I think we will stop here, and this is almost our 10 o'clock, and we can continue to discuss this thing in the next class, or we can go back to our regular approach of Patanjali Yoga that we were doing. This I started because Abhay wanted to know what God is, and so I brought this little more elaborate discussion to give you the flavor of what the consciousness feels like, and how would you go about learning it. And we will see in that meditation. I will give you a little glimpse of the how we go inside, and and if you are able to focus your mind when I talk, then you will have a little glimpse of the deep meditation, and some if you are lucky, you might have some vision or some sound you might hear, which is so subtle. You will not believe that the sound, that sound which you would hear in deep meditation is so subtle. It's almost like a dropping a pin in the in your room, and you can hear the pin. So pin drop silence in your head, then you would hear the sound within you, and we will talk to you if you are lucky enough, or if you are focused enough to realize the music or sound. Then we will discuss that. So I will open it for discussion for 1 or 2 minutes. Any question? Anyone comment?
Dan,
Yeah.
you say you can hear sound, but do you hear any of the other? I
Uh,
mean, any of the other elements coming?
oh yeah, light,
Like,
light. I mean, other thing that you will experience in meditation is the light. Everything that you sense in the material world, you will smell. Patanjali Yoga will teach you how to realize all the senses inside. And so we will not. I will not go into this. I won't take you surprise out of going on Patanjali Yoga. But if you're lucky enough, you might have some one of the five elements: the sound, taste, or nectar even drifts from your sahasrara, which is seventh chakra. There's a nectar which comes in your body, which keeps your body energetic. That is also a part of the meditation. So all these different in this they call it a psychic experiences, or yogic experiences. Vedanta doesn't recommend them to get trapped into those one, but you will have your own experience, and we will talk about them. Yeah, if you get these experiences, it's a good sign. It tells you that you are on the right track. But don't get hooked up, because you will have powers when you go into that meditation. You will have and they call it vibhuti. You will have the power in your hand, but if you use it for personal benefit, you will lose them. And one good example is that Jesus Christ, for example, when he touched the people who were lepers, he was able to heal them. But when he was being prosecuted on this cross, he couldn't help the pain. He can't use. He cried, God, have you forsaken me, out of pain, because he cannot use for his own benefit. Later on, when he came back, resurrection of Jesus Christ, which is a consciousness came back. but physical body level, he was not. He can't use it for physical benefit. So that's why they scriptures say, even if you get power, don't use it for personal benefit. Use it for the people other than you. So that's the only answer I can give it to you.
So he was
This was a
able.
question from Nita. Nita is here with us, so I just answered her question. So is there no other question? Then shall we go into yoga?